putting together the topics for these solo episodes, this topic was like nowhere near the list, but on a whim, I decided to talk about it. I just suddenly felt the urge. Yeah, I mean, is AI, but it's more specifically what we are starting to see a lot of, which is these sort of AI clones. Clones, is that the right word? Basically where you make an AI avatar of yourself or an AI voice of yourself. So I thought this would be an interesting topic to cover. Now, I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast before. One of my biggest fears about having a podcast is that there are hours and hours of my voice online that people could feed into some sort of AI model and train it to sound like me. So I regularly have a chat with my family where we're like, okay, if someone, to my parents, I'll be like, if someone rings you up and it sounds like it's me and they're asking for money, let's have a code question that you have to ask that literally only people in our immediate family would know the answer to, like no one else would know the answer to. So that's the sort of thing that I think about quite a lot, which is why I thought it would be quite interesting to cover this in an episode. So my immediate reaction is very negative towards the thought of making an AI version of myself or an AI version of my voice. Now, I can totally see the appeal and I can see why people would want to do it. And I'm going to give like a different perspective in a minute. But for me, there is just a lot of, I think people have termed it AI slop online. And I just really crave connection and human interaction. I mean, personality wise, that's just always what I've been like. Anyway, I'm the sort of person who doesn't really want to do the small talk. I want to dive deep into how you're feeling or how I'm feeling sort of straight away. So I crave that connection. I much prefer being in a small group where I can have sort of one-to-one conversations rather than being in a big group. I'd much rather have sort of like fewer friendships, but that are much deeper. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love like going about chatting to new people, and it doesn't always have to be deep. If you meet me in real life, we don't have to go hardcore in on a deep conversation. But I guess for me, that humanness, that messiness, and I hope this comes across in how I create content. Like, I try and be really genuinely myself so that if you met me in real life, I would be exactly like I come across online. But yeah, that's really important to me. And so the thought of a kind of like more polished AI version of me is just really unappealing to me. And I feel very committed that is not something that I'm gonna invest my time or energy in, like training a model like that. Like, I want you to confidently know when you see me online, it's me, it's not a robot. And the same with this podcast. Like, when you hear me chatting, I want you to know that it's me and it's not a robot. I mean, there's like crazy stuff out there now where you can like write an article or feed a research paper into a tool and it will make a podcast episode of two people chatting out of that information. And I get that people learn differently, and so maybe that's a much easier way for someone to digest information, but to me, it just feels wrong. I'm not into it. I don't think I would enjoy watching it. I don't think other people would enjoy watching that from me. So I'm really committed to not doing that. Now, there is a topic that I want to brush on, which leads us into a whole other area, potentially covering the patriarchy and capitalism and all sorts of topics. But basically, one of the things that I really struggle with, I notice it a lot with a podcast, for example. I feel like before I record anything like this, I have to put on a full face of makeup. And I mean, when I say a full face of makeup, I don't wear that much makeup anyway, but I definitely feel like I have to have a certain level, like I have to have some makeup on. I would very rarely do this. I don't think I've ever done it with like zero makeup. I've sometimes done it with like just eye makeup. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. But like that actually does hold me back from creating content sometimes, because I'm just like, I just don't have the energy to go and put all the makeup on and take it off later. And I just don't want to do that. And so then I don't record videos that day. Whereas I think for guys, like that isn't something that they have to factor in. That isn't something that holds them back. So the thought of having an AI model of me where I can write the content and then like this avatar just sits there and speaks it and it looks and sounds like me. Like I get the appeal of that. And I remember having a conversation about this with Biz Paul. If you haven't come across Biz Paul, I'll link him in the show notes. Paul Ince. We've been doing a bit of coaching over the last couple of months. And I remember chatting to him about it. And he was like, but for some people, it could really help them get themselves out there. Because if visibility and showing up online is something that is really difficult for you, then actually that might be the perfect way of easing you in. And I do totally get that. And I do appreciate that there are AI tools that are going to make aspects of running a business more accessible and easier for some people. For me, it's not something that I'm interested in because of all the reasons I said before. Like I really crave that human connection. I want to hear from real people. Like even if it's your words, but a robot has just spoken them, like I want to know that it's you. I don't want it to be perfect. I want to see the flaws. I want to see the mistakes. Like honestly, most of the time I feel like an utter hot mess, and it's reassuring to me to know that other people are a hot mess as well. So I don't want perfect. Perfect is not interesting to me. Real messy humans, that's what I get excited about. And those are the people that I want to connect with and that I want to interact with. So yeah, I do see how for some people, you know, if you're incredibly introverted, actually just being able to like type a script and then get a YouTube video out really quickly, I totally see the appeal of that. So this isn't like this is right and this is wrong. This is more just like okay, actually, you know, going back to last week's episode about brand values, it just doesn't feel right to me. I'm not sure which brand value of mine that comes under, but like the connection's important. The human element is important to me. So yeah, this isn't like a judgment of anyone who decides to do this. I guess like one warning from my role as a branding designer, for example, would be that we really want to build up trust in our businesses, and would having an avatar version of yourself producing content, sharing content, like would that erode people's trust in your brand? I do think that people want to see the people behind the brand. I mean, it's a cliche at this point. People buy from people. They don't tend to buy from robots. And obviously there's always going to be outliers to that. You know, like there's some brands that are so big and so established that they don't even need to see a human and they'll still buy. But there's also loads of brands who want to work with influencers because they know that seeing real people and seeing people's faces really encourages people to buy. So yeah, have a think about it. Refer back to last week's episodes about brand values. You know, where does this sit with your values? How do you feel about it? And let me know where you land. I would love to know what you think on this topic. I think it's such an interesting one. I think it's going to become even more of a discussion as things evolve, as the tools improve. A friend of mine did the whole sort of put hours of your voice into a tool and see how it came out, and he sent it to me, and it was like so weird because there was definitely like something of him in it, but it was just slightly wrong, and it like weirded me out. But yeah, I'd love to know where you fall with all of this, and I'd love to carry on the conversation. So come find me on social media where I'm at Liz M. Mosley or at Building Your Brand Podcast, and I will be back next week with another solo episode, and I hope you're enjoying them.